And I'll start. Charles Funk.
Carl Falsgraf.
Carl.
Butch Simpson.
Butch.
Angie DeSanto.
Angie.
Garth Bean.
Thanks, Garth.
Yeah, I get that.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's see. I think the only alternate we have here is Butch. And Butch, I'm going to seat you for Jesse. Jesse's not going to make it tonight. He's fixing everybody's electric again. We did have a little bit of a wind gust yesterday, so apparently everybody's power has to go out. So Jesse's dealing with that. Also, John Kopech will not be joining us tonight. As I think probably some of you know, his father passed away recently. So he's, he's got some family obligations to deal with. So we're going to seat Butch for Jesse. Communications, I don't have any at this point. The next agenda item is public comments, and I think the public that we have here is Paul.
So I got nothing, just listening.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Thanks for being here.
Can we call him John Paul Q Public from now on?
Exactly.
I think because
I've
you're.
been called a lot worse, Catherine. So
Are you at every meeting?
I try to be at as many as I can. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
we could
I got a new nickname for you. It's going to be John Paul Q Public. Yeah,
We could just shorten that to Q. We could just call him Q for
Oh,
short.
no, that's a
gonna
bad.
call you-
Don't do that. People don't
We're going
like
to call
that.
you Q. We're going to call you Q. It'll be right out
that's
of.
bad.
It'll be right out of James Bond. Okay.
All right, next agenda item, approved minutes of the regular meeting. I wrote the wrong date saying Monday, September 24th. It's Thursday, September 24th, 2020 in the agenda. I read through the minutes. I didn't pick up anything at this point to correct. I thought they were okay. Did anybody else see anything?
Nope.
I'll need a motion.
So moved. Carl Falsgraf.
I need a second.
Second, Angie DeSanto.
Thank you, Angie. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain?
That'd be me. I wasn't here at the last meeting.
So Valerie, Garth is going to abstain.
Okay.
Abstinence.
New business. We've added an agenda item, which we haven't had for a little while, which is kind of nice. Selectmen's update. And Catherine, we're happy to have you here.
Oh, sure. Put me on the spot. Okay. I know that you did have something you did want me to talk about, and I don't know if it's on the agenda or if it's part of this update, and that has to do with the Transfer Act.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right. Well, prior to talking to that, I'll just say that, let's see, we signed the contract for the fire truck. I don't know if you already knew that. That's kind of old news from the selectman's point of view, but other than that, I've been getting oriented. I'm in the office. I'm in the office now. I was quarantined at home and working from home for 2 weeks. The staff has been great, absolutely great. I'm not hearing about any particular issues, and I'm meeting with each of the department heads to get a better handle on, what their day-to-day is like, and also what their priorities are, what the issues are that they're facing, and kind of making sure that I have a good handle on that with them. So I'll be probably better able to speak more about those things in the future, but for right now, I'm kind of getting settled in pretty well, and everybody's been super. And hopefully at this point, we can now minimize disruption, because they've been through quite the gauntlet over the last 6-7 weeks.
Yeah.
So I want it to settle down, and they've all been extremely helpful. So, okay. So, talking about, I think what you wanted to talk about was the Transfer Act that was came up in this special legislative session last week.
Yeah, can I just interrupt 1 second
Sure.
and just let the board know that there was a newspaper article about a week ago that Carl had noticed that there was some possible easing of brownfield requirements. And so what we did is we reached out to Catherine to see if she could see if that affected the Cattle Rock. So that's what this is. That's what this discussion's about.
And I don't know if you've already seen it, Chuck, but Chris did put something together and sent it to you.
Yes.
I would suggest that you attach it to your minutes
Okay.
if you can,
Yep.
because that gives a chronology of the Cattle Rock property, a nice summary, chronological summary, and it also refers to the Connecticut Transfer Act. Okay, so so I'm going to read that piece in here.
Okay.
And what they were talking about. Based upon the information reviewed we did a phase 1 assessment of the property, and we had done that before. And based upon the information that came out of that assessment, BL companies and town council feel it's unlikely that any of the lots on the site meet the requirements set forth in the Connecticut Transfer Act to be considered an establishment due to the historic site operations, including waste burial of unknown origin and wire burning activities. It appears that the only historical activities conducted at the site with the potential to meet the Connecticut transfer criteria would have been the potential storage and or disposal of the hazardous waste generated at another location. However, there are no records of such storage or disposal. In addition, based on existing exemptions regarding the definition of a transfer under the Transfer Act, the site would not likely be subject to the legal and technical requirements of the Connecticut Transfer Act in the event of a foreclosure and or future sale to by the towns of Ashford and Wellington.
Okay.
So, you know, when we look at this property, we are looking at, okay, are we going to keep it? You know, are we going to keep it? Are we going to sell it? Which right there, that would kind of get in the way of all of this. So I know that was a lot of words, a little hard to sum up in just a couple, but what they were discussing did not fit what we have for Cattle Rock.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
You know, it would have been great maybe if it had, but it doesn't.
Yep.
So
No, and
Carl,
that was-
thank you. By the way, Carl, I wasn't able to find the original article that you referred to. I didn't know what paper or what day it was in.
I don't remember what day it was. It was in the Chronicle, and it was just after their session, you know,
Gee,
just
we went back.
discussing all the things that they passed, and it was just a little sentence at the end of a paragraph. There was nothing in the headline about it or anything.
Well, that's what I like about you. You have an eye for detail, okay? So there was nothing that affects us in there, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I wasn't actually able to find that particular article, but we did do the research, and I will continue to look at this to see if there's anything else that comes out. By the way, I also called Pat Wilson-Phineas, and what she said was it was not a cleaning site. It was not considered a cleaning site back when, and that may have been a factor in this. Okay, the Cattle Rock property was not a cleaning site historically. So it was really more of a, you know, farm, dump, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were just sort of hoping. I'm really glad that you looked into it.
You know, the other thing that is in the thing that Chris put together for us is, you know, the monies that are left to continue doing what we're trying to do with it. We've applied for remediation. We've applied for a grant. I'm sorry, subject to approving bond funds. We did a pre-application form, and actually, I don't know if Cheryl was involved in doing that form. The other thing is that the bond commission meeting was delayed. It was canceled And that's not happening again until October 30th.
Yep.
So following approval of the bonding package, DECD will accept remediation applications. And they mean the state bonding package.
Right.
So right now we're kind of in a holding pattern. It says per DECD, we may apply for a remediation grant even if the assessment grant is still open.
Okay.
So we don't, it's not going to hold us up in terms of trying to move forward.
Good. All right. Well, it'd just be nice to, keep our eye on that property, and hopefully, over some time we can, with the vigilance of the selectman's office and so forth, we can eventually make that a property that works for the town again.
Okay. There is one other thing that has been discussed, and I'll just bring it up, is the reopening of the town offices. As you know, the library opened, and we opened it under strict COVID restrictions that were the procedures and everything were approved by the Board of Health, Eastern Highlands Department of Health.
Yep.
Okay. And with very stringent requirements. We know that, it's going to sound a little strange, but if someone gets sick at the library, that would be an awful thing.
Zoom meetings, they're great.
And we would close the library. When we talk about our town offices and the people working in there, we don't have a lot of, like, you can shift stuff around between people. They do a little bit of coverage where they can for each other, but they have their particular areas of expertise and their particular responsibilities that they are fully accountable for. If, again, if the library closes, it's inconvenient, and it'll inconvenience a number of people. But if someone gets sick in the town offices, we can end up having to close down as part of our operations.
Right.
Okay. You can't do a lot of this work from home. People shouldn't be taking town records, for
Right.
one. But the other thing is you'd need to keep coming back into the office to get whatever. So the thought of, the risk associated with that is something that we're being rather conservative about. It's really, Wellington's not open, from my understanding. We don't have the physical space to do the appropriate kind of social distancing if it were open. We do have windows at the front, and for people to come, and they can call ahead. It's probably the best way. Just call ahead if you can, or come, and people will accommodate your needs at those windows. They'll take in whatever paperwork needs to be taken in. Basically, note what date and time it came. Make sure it gets to the appropriate person and it gets filed appropriately. So we're doing our best to work around, have things in place that make sure that the town is not, people in the town are not, disenfranchised in any way.
Yeah, I would say, Catherine, on that front, I think the town hall is done, and this is from my perspective. I have to interact with a town hall on a variety of different fronts, wearing a variety of hats, and the town hall has been very, very accommodating, and I've had to have a lot of interactions at the town hall, handing papers or interacting with officials, and I have to say everybody's been very, very accommodating and helpful. So my hope is that other people's experiences, but having said that, I'm also comfortable interacting with almost everybody down there, and I know who to talk to. So
They are with you too.
Here for me.
If anybody has an issue, have them call me.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Thanks, Catherine. The next agenda item is to review the Board of Education request to move the fiscal year 18-19 $20,166 dollars and 66 cents audited unexpended funds into the non-lapsing fund. I spoke to Sean O'Grady at King & King about this issue, which we had put off till this meeting till we've got clarification that we could, that there was a system, a relatively simple system for this to be accounted for properly. He assured me that was the case. And my understanding is he's been in contact with Cheryl, and he and Cheryl have a plan on how to institute this and make it smooth and the right way to do it. So I guess the question now is, is this monies that we feel is appropriate to transfer into their non-lapsing fund? My own personal feeling is I am a proponent of this this fund. I think it's better for the school to try to utilize these funds instead of just sort of spending them willy-nilly at the end of the year. So I continue to feel that this is an appropriate move to make. So I personally would be in support of doing something like this. Does anybody else have a comment? Would somebody like to make a motion to do this?
So moved, Angie DeSanto.
Second, Carl Falsgraf.
Is there any other discussion? Anybody want any clarification? All in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you, everyone. Motion passes. Audit, 1920 audit update. Again, I'll ask Cheryl to speak from her perspective. Very briefly, I asked Sean from King & King, our auditing firm, his perspective, and he did acknowledge that there were some things that needed to be reworked at the school, but they were driven, I think, by the auditing firm, and that it was his estimation that the school is in the process of making those changes that they need to make, and that once those changes are made, it then lands in Cheryl's office, because she then has to make changes from her end as well. So that's my understanding, and that he was feeling fairly confident that things were going much smoother this year than obviously last year.
Yay.
Cheryl, do you have anything you'd like to add, or just?
That's very accurate. We are slowed down because of the training for the new system. So every other week we're in training pretty much all day, every day. And this is one of those weeks. So I'm working with Karen on balancing now. And when she has time, she'll get me her figures so I can make sure that we've made the adjustments that we meant to make on both sides.
Yeah. Okay. And Cheryl, can you just clarify, this was driven by the auditors slightly, right? The auditors wanted some information. And again, I guess if you could just add to this a little bit, some of this has to do with COVID.
Yes. So we were anticipating receiving revenues for COVID expenditures. So they had us separate out Board of Ed, cafeteria and grants, and unemployment for each of those things into separate receivables. And so we had separate payables also. And we're their first audit with this COVID situation. So they're learning as they go, and they change their mind. And so we're working everything backwards, back to the expenditures, and not counting the revenues separately. And we're also going to use the revenues to offset the expenditures so that it gives the Board of Ed you know, less expenditures, so more left over at the end of the year.
Cheryl, just from a more, uh, I don't know what I'm talking about perspective. Do you agree? I guess what I'm asking is when King and King came to you and said, we'd like to look at this differently than what we initially stated. Do you understand their logic? I know it's a lot of work for you, but does it make sense what they're asking us to do?
It does, yes. Primarily because we're not going to receive any funding from FEMA and possibly the state, but also because then there's it makes more sense to the general public when they look at the expenditures. If the revenue is offsetting the expenditures, it's clearer to them than having to look in two different places to see, you know, how much money they got back and how much money they expended, and, you know, subtract.
Yeah.
I think it's more transparent for just the general public.
Good. Okay. Thank you. That's a great answer. 6D, fiscal year 18-19 town annual report update.
Chuck,
Go
could
ahead.
I just ask Cheryl a question?
Sure.
Cheryl, I just wondered, how's the new financial person working out at the school?
She's only been there about a month, and so she's overwhelmed, but I have every confidence that she's going to do well.
And Cheryl, she's also very engaged with training. So she's, you know, spending half of her time working on training and then half of her time trying to get up to speed with the system.
Exactly. This week, she had, it's a payroll setup week. And so their payroll person had a family emergency and couldn't attend. So Martha was, you know, clueless.
Right.
So, but luckily, you know, we could work it out together so they could actually set something up. But
Good.
she's got a great attitude, and I think she'll do very well.
Could I ask a question?
Go ahead, Valerie.
So this financial person at the school is Martha what?
It's Goodry, Guidry.
Okay, thank you.
She's the new business manager.
Businessman, okay.
Mhm.
Carl, you all set?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Cheryl.
Welcome.
Next item, fiscal year 18-19 town annual report. Just so the board knows, we're working on it. We were just given sort of some of the final information. We're going to try to tweak that a little bit, and then see if we can get this thing air quote published. So that's sort of where we're at with that. I continue to think that the annual reports are an important task that our board should be responsible for. I mean, we are responsible for, but I think we should continue to execute. So we have the 1920 annual report coming up, and I may torture one of you to help. So try not to duck. I see you, Garth. The next item is expenditure and revenue report. I don't have a lot of questions, although, Cheryl, I was curious, and it's okay if you don't have an answer, but I was wondering if you could speak to a little bit the part-time salary out of the Public Works Administration, where we have current expenditures that are 1,000 over. What are we doing, and why is that happening? Do you know?
I do know. We have one of the Public Works employees is out on workers' comp leave, and so this person is covering.
Okay, all right. And so this is a number that we're going to expect to see going up for a little while.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Did we get the expenditures and revenues report somewhere?
You know what? I just had a brain cramp and realized that I did not send them out. I sent them, I had a couple printed out that I delivered and I forgot to send the rest
Okay.
forward. That's my fault, Andy.
No,
I just remembered.
I just checked because a couple of times I missed things and I was looking to see if I missed it, so.
No, that was my fault. And actually I
Not a
tortured
problem.
Cheryl to send them to me so that I would be sure to get them to you. So I will send them, and I apologize to the board. It's sort of a useless agenda item if you can't see what's going on. Cheryl, the other question I had for you is on page 10. There's right at the bottom of the page is the BOA COVID-19 fund, which you just spoke to, which is like 55,000, yada, yada. You're expecting that number to be reallocated, done differently than it is now?
No, it's still an education expense, but when if we do receive any revenues for it, the revenues will offset that expense, so the expense will look smaller.
Okay. So we're going to keep that until we see if something comes in.
It will always stay there. It is an education expense, but
Okay.
that's just keeping it separate.
I see. Okay, good. Thank you. Cheryl, I always ask you, just because I do, is there anything in either the expenditure or revenue that gives you pause or offers you some sort of concern that maybe we should pay attention to?
No, I think that the transfer station again will be one to keep an eye on, and the site maintenance handling and contaminated materials disposal will probably be higher because we did get notice that they had a shortened season, but received a lot more contaminated materials in Wellington than they had expected. So those would be the transfer station would be the one I would be most concerned about.
Okay.
I have a
Excuse me.
question.
Hold on, Angie. Go ahead, Carl.
Before all this COVID stuff started, and Ralph had asked that the transfer station committee meet again in order to, I think what he wanted to do was for us to tweak the rules so that contractors brought their stuff right to Willimantic. And I'm wondering if Catherine was involved with his decision then, and if we can do something to make that happen.
Actually, I don't believe I'm aware of that, but I'm going to follow up on it.
So
Okay.
it's my understanding at the moment, and anybody can correct me if I don't have this right, but it is my understanding that right now, if you're a contractor and you have a building permit from Ashford, you can take the refuse that's generated from that job, which is somebody in town, and you can dispose of it currently, legally, in one of our dumpsters.
Yeah, Chuck, I was on the committee, and that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
But
So what I would say is that for me personally as a contractor, I have only taken that liberty a couple of times for certain clients who are kind of on the edge. Let me just put it that way. So, but otherwise, I've always disposed of refuse in Willimantic just because I think that's the right way to do it. So Anyway, I just wanted to make sure the board members understood sort of how it works now and what Carl's sort of suggesting we maybe change.
Carl, would you mind if this is Catherine, would you mind if I give you a call, talk a little more further about this in particular with you, some of the details?
Not a bit.
Thanks.
So I have a
I
question.
had to wrestle with my cat for a second.
I hope you win.
I just did.
I have a question.
Sure, Angie, go ahead.
I was just wondering if we get any revenue from having all those S-plunked trucks stationed at the transfer station, parked there. Do we charge them any rent or something?
We do not.
We do not.
Okay.
Do we have, so I guess one of my questions on that is, do we have a relationship with them? So in other words, I guess what I'm really asking is, can we call in a favor because we've been kind enough to allow them to park there?
What kind of a favor are you talking about?
So if we needed something expedited, a tree, whatever, blah, 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 do we get some special preference?
I don't know that that's the case, but could you let me look into this? Let me find out more about that relationship, you know, why the trucks park there and everything. It is my understanding that it's a good thing that the trucks do park there, but I've never gotten all the details on that. So let me do the follow-up on a little bit of that history on how we got there and what that relationship really is.
Yep, and I would suggest, and again, I am really guessing here.
Yeah.
I would guess that there might be some information on that front with Joe Kalinowski, and I don't
Oh, yeah.
know if he's able to, you know, hey, we've got a tree over here that really sort of needs some attention. I don't know. So
I would say this, knowing Joe, if he's got that kind of a relationship with them, then that would be happening. You know, that's who Joe is. So,
Right.
but again, I would just want to take another look at the history of this and make sure that I understand the pieces that are involved. I will tell you that I was in touch with Eversource today with our primary contact there, and he got to run through the hoops a few times to take care of something over here in town.
Good.
So I'm starting to get a sense of how it's all connected. So bear with me as I work it through.
Yep. I would just caution our board to, you know, be patient on those trucks. I don't want to cut our nose to spite our face on something like that. It may be a different relationship than what looks obvious at the moment.
By your next meeting, I should have enough information to give you a sense of it. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Catherine. Angie, anything else? Did that answer?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Agenda items for the next meeting. Right at the moment, I have no idea, but we'll figure something out.
Is that a promise or a threat?
Well done.
Next agenda item, remarks for the good of the board. I continue to be very pleased with all of you for dealing with these Zoom meetings. I think there's positives and negatives to them, but I continue to be very, very impressed with your vigilance and helping these meetings go smoothly. So I want to thank you all. So Carl, we're up to the next best thing.
Move to adjourn.
Right. I have a first, a second.
Second, Angie DeSanto.
Angie, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Butch.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Motion passes. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Catherine. Thanks,
Bye.
Carol.
Take
Good
care.
night.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye. See you, Paul.
Good night.